President Cyril Ramaphosa's recent address to the nation has brought fresh attention to one of the most turbulent economic and political episodes in South Africa's recent history, the controversial VAT saga that has not only stirred public outcry but has also sent tremors across the country's political alliances, leadership stability, and economic policy debates. As pressure builds on Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana to resign following mounting criticism over his handling of the national budget, many South Africans are left questioning how the country reached this point, what lessons are to be drawn, and what lies ahead for South Africa's fragile political coalition and economic future. This issue is deeply layered, with its roots in South Africa's long-standing fiscal challenges and a complex political landscape that has evolved rapidly over the past decade. To understand the full scope of this development, it is important to consider how the country's political and economic context has shaped the current crisis. In recent years, South Africa has grappled with persistent fiscal deficits, declining economic growth, and soaring unemployment, which have all placed immense strain on public finances. Following the ANC's significant electoral decline in the 2024 national elections, where the party lost its outright parliamentary majority for the first time since 1994, the resulting multi-party coalition has struggled to maintain cohesion and clarity in governance. It is in this fragile and uncertain environment that Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana, tasked with addressing a staggering R75 billion revenue shortfall, introduced a proposed 0.5% VAT increase in March 2025. The announcement sparked immediate public outrage, with citizens, civil society groups, and opposition parties quickly condemning the measure as regressive and unjust. Many argued that the VAT hike would disproportionately impact poor and working-class South Africans, deepening inequality and undermining social stability. Coalition partners, notably the Democratic Alliance and the Economic Freedom Fighters, both of whom typically stand on opposing ideological platforms, found common ground in opposing the VAT increase. They jointly challenged the proposal in the Western Cape High Court, arguing procedural irregularities and constitutional violations in how the hike was introduced. On April 27, the court suspended the VAT hike, citing these irregularities and declaring the decision a victory for constitutional accountability. Following this ruling, President Ramaphosa addressed the nation, acknowledging the turmoil while defending the government's intention behind the proposed increase. He emphasized the necessity of difficult decisions in times of fiscal strain but urged South Africans to learn from this episode to improve transparency and rebuild public trust. His call for collaborative governance and balancing economic recovery with social equity reflected the difficult path the administration now faces. Julius Malema and the EFF seized this moment to intensify their criticism of Godongwana. They accused him of reckless fiscal mismanagement and of failing to produce a budget that considered the needs of ordinary South Africans. Malema described the court ruling as a turning point that exposed what he called the Treasury's incompetence. He proposed alternative measures, such as wealth taxes and corporate tax adjustments, aimed at addressing revenue shortfalls more equitably. Interestingly, despite its sharp criticism, the EFF refused to back a motion of no confidence against Godongwana, which was tabled by the Umkhonto we Sizwe party. The EFF justified this decision by arguing that the appointment and dismissal of cabinet ministers remains the president's prerogative, subtly reinforcing Ramaphosa's authority amidst the political chaos. For his part, Godongwana has firmly rejected calls for his resignation. He has argued that making unpopular decisions is an unavoidable aspect of his position and has indicated that he is focused on reworking the budget by the 21st of May. However, with the VAT reversal leaving a R28 billion funding gap, the challenges ahead are immense. Analysts have warned that further austerity measures or other regressive forms of taxation could risk igniting even greater public discontent and further destabilizing the already fragile coalition government. President Ramaphosa, meanwhile, has framed the entire episode as a testament to the resilience of South Africa's democratic institutions. He praised the judiciary's role in upholding constitutional principles and underscored the importance of accountability in leadership. His subtle defense of Godongwana, noting that leadership requires navigating complex pressures, was seen by many as an attempt to hold his administration together and prevent further political fragmentation. The VAT crisis has also exposed deep fissures within South Africa's post-2024 coalition government. The Democratic Alliance has threatened to withdraw from the coalition over the tax dispute, while other smaller parties, such as Action SA, have refused to compromise on their opposition to regressive taxation. Ramaphosa's repeated appeals for unity and collaboration face enormous headwinds, as ideological differences between coalition partners become more difficult to reconcile. As the Treasury scrambles to finalize a revised budget within the coming weeks, debates over fiscal responsibility and social justice are set to intensify. The balancing act required to close the revenue shortfall while avoiding measures that disproportionately harm the poor will be an enormous test of the administration's policymaking capabilities and coalition management skills. Moreover, with local government elections looming in 2026, the political stakes could not be higher. For President Ramaphosa, navigating this moment successfully will require not just sound economic policy but also deft political maneuvering to maintain coalition cohesion and avoid triggering a collapse of the multi-party government. Many political analysts suggest that failure to manage these pressures could open the door for further fragmentation of the coalition, creating opportunities for opposition parties to gain greater influence or even trigger a realignment of political forces ahead of the next general election. For ordinary South Africans, the VAT crisis has reinforced long-standing frustrations over economic inequality and government accountability. Whether the lessons President Ramaphosa has called for will translate into meaningful reforms in governance and fiscal policy remains to be seen. Yet, one thing is clear: the heightened scrutiny and public engagement around economic governance are unlikely to fade anytime soon. The events of the past months will continue to shape the political discourse and policymaking landscape as the nation approaches critical junctures in the coming years. If you found this breakdown informative and want to stay updated on the latest developments in South African politics, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We would also love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe Finance Minister Godongwana should resign, or do you think the president is right to stand by him? How should South Africa tackle its fiscal challenges moving forward? Share your views in the comments below. Let's get the conversation going. Thank you for watching Mzansi Political Junction, where every voice counts and every political move is scrutinized.